Hi, my name is Jasmine. In today's video, I'm going to bring you to the tomb of Lazarus. The tomb of Lazarus is a traditional spot of pilgrimage located in the West Bank town of Alexandria, traditionally identified as the biblical village of Bethany, on the southeast slope of the Mount of Olives, some 2.4 kilometers (1.5 miles) east of Jerusalem. The tomb is purported site of a miracle recorded in the Gospel of John, in which Jesus raised Lazarus from the site, sacred to both Christians and Muslims, have been identified as the tomb of the Gospel account since at least the 4th century AD. As the Catholic Encyclopedia of 1913 states, however, while it is quite certain that the present village formed about the traditional tomb of Lazarus, which is in a cave in the village, the identification of this particular cave as the actual tomb of Lazarus is merely possible. It has no strong intrinsic authority. Archaeologists have established that the area was used as a cemetery in the 1st century AD, with tombs of this period found a short distance north of the church. Abbey of Saint Mary and Martha. In 1143, during the Crusades, King Phocas and Queen Melisende purchased the village of Bethany from the Patriarch of the Holy Sepulchre in exchange for land near Hebron. Melisende built a large Benedictine convent dedicated to Mary and Martha, extensively repaired the 600-year-old church of St. Lazarus, and rededicated it to Mary and Martha. The Abbey of Sisters Mary and Martha was separated from the tomb of Lazarus by a small cave cut from the rock. Pilgrims entered the site as today from the north side. From the court in which they found themselves, they could turn east to enter the church of St. Mary and Martha, or west to enter the crypt chapel which gave access to the tomb of Lazarus. The building of the medieval convent are known to extend some 45 meters south from the walls of the two churches and at least 57 meters from east to west. Enough of the complex survives to just suggest that a functional distinction was observed between the western or upper part, which seems to have contained the conventual building of the nuns, and the lower eastern part, which was given over to storerooms and kitchens, the finest architectural retaining to survive anywhere in the convent, appears to have represented the eastern portico of a cloister lying immediately south of the west of the church, the churches of the Crusader Kingdom of Jerusalem. After the fall of the Crusader Kingdom in 1187, the nuns were moved to the side. The church was probably restored at the time, with only the tomb and barrel vaulting surviving. The 6th century church and tower were heavily damaged but remained. From 1952 to 1955, a modern Franciscan church dedicated to St. Lazarus was built over the Byzantine church of St. Lazarus and Crusader church of St. Sisters Mary and Martha. In 1965, the Greek church was built just west of the tomb of Lazarus. The fourth court of the Franciscan church of St. Lazarus stands over the west end of the older churches, from which parts of the original mosaic floor are preserved. The west wall of the forecourt contains the west facade of the 6th century basilica with 3 doorways. The cruciform plan church stands over the east end of the older churches. Trap doors in the floor just inside reveal parts of the apse of the 4th century church, which was shorter than the 6th century church. The modern church bears a mosaic on its facade depicting Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. The interior is decorated with polished stone and mosaics. Just up the hill on the left is the 6th century mosque of Al-Azhar. The courtyard is in the Byzantine church atrium, and the mosque is built in the wall that formerly supported the west end of the 12th century church. A further 25 meters up the hill on the left is the modern entrance to the tomb of Lazarus, which is accessed by 24 very uneven stone steps. This probably was a rock-cut tomb, but very little of its original form remains. The rock probably collapsed under the weight of the large Crusader church built above it. The original black entrance can be seen in the east wall of the antechamber. This alignment suggests the tomb predates the Byzantine churches and may be well from the time of Lazarus. Even farther up the hill, a modern Greek Orthodox church that incorporates a wall of the Crusader church built over the tomb. Jesus loved Mary, Martha, and their brother Lazarus. Their home in Bethany seemed to be one of the few places Jesus could go and truly relax. Mary and Martha are often contrasted. Mary as the devout learner and Martha, the bustling, religious housekeeper. This may be an unfair contrast. The Bible tells us both sisters learned the faith of Jesus. There is one particular incident, however, that does point to their different personalities. Once while Jesus was visiting, Mary sat at his feet, conversing, asking questions. Mosque of Al-Uzair. By 1384, a simple mosque has been built on the site of the existing structures. In the 16th century, the Ottomans built the larger Al-Uzair Mosque to serve the town's now Muslim inhabitants and named it in honor of the town's patron Saint Lazarus of Bethany. The construction utilized the surviving burial vaulting of the former West Church. Its courtyard is in Byzantine Church atrium. A further 25 meters up the hill on the left is a modern entrance to the tomb of Lazarus, which is accessed by 24 very uneven stone steps. This probably was a rock-cut tomb, but very little of its original form remains. The rock probably collapsed under the weight of the larger Crusader church built above it. The original black entrance can be seen in the east wall of the antechamber. This alignment suggests the tomb predates the Byzantine churches and may well be from the time of Lazarus. The entrance to the tomb today is by a flight of uneven rock steps through the street, as it was described in 1886. There were 24 steps from then. Modern street level leading to the square chamber serving as a place of prayer, from which more steps led to a lower chamber believed to be the tomb of Lazarus. The same description applies today. The steps enter the antechamber, 3.31 meter long by 2.20 meter wide, through the north wall. The outline of the former entrance by the mosque can still be seen by the street. The floor of the antechamber is 2 steps above the floor level of the mosque, possibly due to the response of the limestone ceiling during the construction of the Crusader-era church above the tomb. The Crusaders strengthened the tomb itself with masonry, which obscures most of the original rock surface except for a few holes. The alignment of the tomb and antechamber suggests they predate the Byzantine churches and may even be in the time. The perishable has been clothed with the imperishable and the mortal with immortality. Then the saying that is written will come to pass, death has been swallowed up in victory. Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? The sting of death is sin, and the power of sin is the law. But thanks be to God who gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. Therefore, my beloved brothers, be steadfast and immovable. Lazarus was one of Jesus Christ's closest friends. In fact, we're told Jesus loved him. When Lazarus fell ill, his sisters sent a message to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. When Jesus heard the news, he waited 2 more days before going to Lazarus' hometown of Bethany. Jesus knew that he would do a great miracle for God's glory, and therefore he was not in a hurry. When Jesus arrived in Bethany, Lazarus had already been dead and in the tomb for 4 days. When Martha discovered that Jesus went on his way, she went out to meet him. "Lord," she said, "if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Jesus told Martha, "Your brother Simon, who lives in Bethany, invites Jesus and his companions, including Lazarus, for a meal Saturday evening. Simon is called the leper, perhaps being a former leper whom Jesus had at some point healed, reflecting her industrious character. Martha ministers to the guests. Mary is particularly attentive to Jesus this time in a way that stirs controversy. Archaeological excavations between 1949 and 1953, directed by Father Sylvester Salar for the Franciscan of the Holy Land, reveal details of the previous Christian places of worship erected near the tomb in Bethany. 4 superimposed churches were discovered to the east of Lazarus' tomb, the earliest dated to the 4th or 5th century. Rock-cut tombs and the remains of houses, wine presses, cisterns, and silos were also unearthed. Pottery finds were detailed to the Persian and Hellenistic period. There are ongoing excavations at a site just behind the house of Martha and Mary. The tomb of Lazarus in Bethany is a traditional pilgrimage destination. The tomb is the purported site of the miracle recorded in the Gospel of John, which Jesus raises Lazarus of Bethany from the dead. A site sacred to both Christians and Muslims had been identified as the tomb of the Gospel account since at least the 3rd century CE. It is quite certain that the present village formed about the tradition tomb of Lazarus, which is in a cave in the village. Thanks for watching the end.